Hey guys, this video is brought to you by Squarespace, and as you know, I use Squarespace for my own website. In fact, anytime someone asks me for a recommendation, I always recommend Squarespace. Right now, if you use the code ADAM, you will save 10% on your Squarespace website at checkout. I finally got my hands on a Fuji GFX 50S medium format mirrorless camera, and I'm super stoked. So this is going to be, I guess, a mini review of the camera, and I'll also share with you a handful of images that I shot in the past day or so. So anyway, Fuji shooters, listen up. This camera is really designed for you. If you're somebody that's been shooting Fuji, as I have for many years, there is literally almost no learning curve when you're shooting with the GFX 50S. All of the buttons, all of the dials, all that kind of stuff is laid out just like any other of the X series cameras. I mean, it's pretty freaking awesome. And to have your ISO dial here, your shutter speed dial here, and an aperture ring that you can turn really takes it back to kind of like that really manual kind of feel. Now, you can override a lot of this stuff. So I've got the shutter assigned to this little jog wheel over here. I've actually got the aperture assigned to this jog wheel over here because I can put the lens in this C setting, which actually lets me lock it into place and then manage it from here. In fact, Fuji has put a bunch of function buttons on here that they didn't even put names on because they figured, you know what, we'll let you guys decide. We'll let you figure out what you want to do and what you would like to assign those buttons to, which is really cool. So then you can customize your experience exactly how you like. But all the other stuff is here. You know, you got your playback, your trash over there, you got your different focus settings over here, laid out just like you would expect. Now, there's a couple of neat things. Number one, you've got this articulating screen. So it pops out, it tilts down, it tilts up, and it tilts to the side. Just that one side though. But that's still pretty cool. So you have a lot of different viewing angles. I definitely could see that if you were shooting low, let's say you were tracking somebody on a skateboard, you know, you could track them like that and like, you know, have the camera like, you know, looking straight down on it or something like that, which I think is really, really cool. Now this is your electronic viewfinder. And check this out, guys. This thing comes right off. Boom! There you go. Electronic viewfinder is off. And now, if you wanted, and you wanted to keep the camera really, really trim, you could just shoot it with the LCD. I personally like the electronic viewfinder. I think it's really handy, and I really do like having that, you know, on the camera. They do sell a tilting adapter for this thing, so you can tilt this thing up, and again, you can know you shoot like this, which I think is also very cool. Harkens back to the old school days of like, you know, medium format with the whatever that viewfinder is. The viewfinder from the top. Oh my God, you guys have to correct me on that one. Another really cool thing is the little display over here. And you guys can see that it's an LCD display, but you can also invert it like that and you can have it backlit, which is really cool. And I think that that's terrific because it really shows you a whole lot of information that you have, you know, on there. It's got your shutter speed, your aperture, you know, your ISO, anyway, all that kind of stuff. The grip feels great. The camera's actually surprisingly lightweight. When you think of medium format, or at least in the past when you thought of medium format, you thought of a very, very large camera system, and this is actually very small. The build quality feels just like a Fuji. Everything's made in Japan. Really nice. So if you have like an X100, I'm sorry, if you have like, well, an X100, but if you have an X Pro 2 or an XT2, this is going to feel very much along the same lines in as far as build quality goes. A couple of other things here. You know, we've got some nice stuff. We've got a DC in, we've got USB and HDMI, a little mini HDMI. And then over here, we've got audio in and out, which is terrific. So you can do full HD recording and you can monitor as well. You've got a big ass honking battery over here that so far it's not terrific. Maybe firmware will help that out. But I know that you definitely want to have some extra batteries, or if you do put on the grip, which I'm told is terrific, you can put an extra battery in there and have more battery life. Then over here, you've got your two SD slots. And the cool thing about this is that you can set the SD slot. You can set the SD slots so that you can either have overflow, where you write to one card, it overflows to the other card. You can have redundancy, so that one card is continually backing up the other card. You can have it so that all of your image files go on one card and all of your movie files go on another card, which I really like. I think that's terrific if you're going to be having a day shooting stills and video. And you can also set it up so that you could have one card with RAWs and one with JPEGs, which is also actually pretty cool, because when you need to do some quick image review or get some quick JPEGs out to a client, these RAW files are like 115 megabytes, so having some JPEGs on there might be handy. I don't know if that's your thing. I shoot RAW. I want the RAW goodness, but I can say the images out of the camera are really absolutely beautiful. Even just the RAW files, I'm absolutely impressed. It's got that Fuji look, that Fuji color that you've come to love and expect if you are a Fuji shooter. The electronic viewfinder, unbelievable. The viewing is just massive. It's absolutely massive. There is some flicker in there. You know, I think that some people have talked about it. I'm not going to get too hung up on that. In fact, I'm not going to get too hung up on the specs. I'll let you guys go and read all on the specs. I'm going to talk more about the experience. Shooting with the camera is terrific. Is this camera for everybody? Absolutely not. This is not going to replace your DSLR. For most people, it is not a fast camera. It takes a long time to buffer each file. It's only got a shutter sync maxed out at 1/125th of a second. In fact, that's probably my biggest gripe, because I love using flash, and knowing that I'm capped out at 1/125th, it could make things difficult as far as capturing motion. It could make things a little bit more challenging as far as crushing ambient. Obviously, you can add filters, ND filters to this if you really need to do that. In fact, you could get an adapter and use leaf shutter lenses that wouldn't restrict you with shutter speed, but then you would have to focus manually, which again is not a terribly big deal, but you know, it's a lot of extra steps, and who really wants to do that? So another little gripe I would say are these strap things here. They block the doors. Come on, guys, like, what is that? I mean, look, it's not the end of the world. So far, I'm really, really impressed. I think the files are absolutely beautiful. So let's go into Lightroom and let's just look at a handful, a little small sampling of some files that I shot with this. And literally, this is just after a day of holding on to this thing. So here we are. This is a sunset that I shot, and I'll just show you the before and after. Okay, so let's go into the develop module. All right, it would help for me to be in Lightroom itself. You know, I'm going to get rid of all this stuff over here so we don't have to see it. All right, so this was the before and this was the after. So I pumped it up in Lightroom quite a bit, but let's just look at the type of exposure that we have here. So this was at a half second at f/26 at ISO 100. So yeah, pretty freaking nuts. Okay, guys, there you go. So let's look at some more images here. Okay, so this was like one of the first shots I took. And let's see, we're at 1/160th, f/2.8, ISO 100. And oh, by the way, I've got the 63mm f2.8 on here, which is a 50mm equivalent in 35mm terms. But you know, it behaves differently than 35mm. So this is an f2.8. And the focus is so incredibly shallow. I mean, I was trying to get focused on this dewy spider web, and I mean, look at that, guys. That's 1:1 right there. Okay, everything else is nice and soft. ISO 100. You know, the pixel density is beautiful. I don't really worry about that kind of stuff. You know, I really want, you know, really pretty images and nice color. And again, you know, I'll show you the before and the after. I mean, just out of the camera, the photo is quite beautiful, and with just minimal amounts of editing, it's even prettier. All right, here's a nice shot of some of an echinacea flower and some other flowers right after a rain. 6/40th of a second at 2.8 ISO 100, you know, it's just absolutely beautiful. The colors are spectacular, superb, rich, and look at the 1:1 here, guys. I mean, that's just insane, the amount of detail that you're getting in there. Look at this detail on the leaves over here. It's just beautiful. And again, that's the before, that's the after, I mean, it really is just gorgeous out of the camera, and just a little bit of light editing, we can even take it to another point. Here's an interesting shot of my little doggy Cleo, our dog Cleo. This was a 60th of a second at f2.8 at 1/1600th. And the cool thing is that, you know, because it's a mirrorless camera, I can shoot handheld at a 60th of a second and nail focus. If this was, you know, a typical medium format camera with an enormous pentaprism, 1/60th of a second wide open like that would probably be precarious for focus. But the other thing that's really interesting about this is, okay, let's just look at the focus here. I mean, look at that, man. That is perfect. And you can see there's even fall off on the other eye, okay? All of the little hairs are cute, and her little eye details. This, my friends, is at 1600 ISO. Again, you know, this is something that, you know, coming from the medium format realm and having shot a lot of medium format stuff, you know, being able to shoot in natural light at ISO 1600, you know, particularly at a shutter speed like this, is a pretty awesome thing. And the color, again, guys, you know, here we go. I'll go the before and the after. Actually, yeah, I don't know. It's a very minimal difference. You know, I almost didn't even really edit this one much. Can you believe it? There you go. Just out of the camera, it looked that pretty. So here we go. My friend Kim stopped by with his daughter, and I just had them, you know, jump up in front of the backdrop that I had there, and just look at the detail there, guys. I mean, that's kind of incredible. Okay, this was literally just I got one strobe up, and I got that one shot, but then I took a few more shots here, and this is really where things got interesting. Okay. Here I got, I was at 1/125th, which was my maximum shutter sync. I was at f4 at ISO 100, okay? And I just want you guys to see, I'm going to get rid of the information here. I want you to see the one-to-one on the eyeball. I mean, look at the level of detail in there. It's insane. Look at the eye. Look at his pupil. Look at his iris. I mean, all of those little striations and different, you know, little colors and everything like that. And, you know, the interesting thing about medium format is that it's really sharp, but it's also really smooth. And, you know, I didn't do a whole lot. You know what? I'm just going to just get a little bit of that shine off there. Maybe just bring it down to there. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so let me show you something that's really, really interesting, guys. This was shot with the Canon. Now, this was shot with the Canon 50mm. So all the settings were the same. I took the Canon 1DX Mark II. I put the 50mm lens on it. I put it at f4. I was at ISO 100 and 1/125th of a second. So I emulated all of the exact settings that I had with the Fuji. And let me just show you what the comparison is here, okay? Look at this, guys. I know that they're not exact. I know this is unscientific. I know that they weren't both on tripods and Kim didn't maintain the exact same, you know, expression. But this is basically not too far out of camera. This guy, I had to really do a lot of editing to get it to be close to this. And all the detail and all the richness and all the beautiful color in here, I really had to work hard to try to get the Canon file to come close. So, you know, let me just show you here. If we go into the develop mode and we look over here, you know, I added a few little exposure. Actually, I had to add a half stop of exposure, but I didn't do a whole lot as far as editing goes. And to be honest with you guys, like, I did a black and white of this thing, and like, I think this is the one that I would probably use. I just kind of like it. But just for comparison's sakes, let's look at the, actually, you know what, let's go back. Let me just show you what it looked like unedited. Oh, let's see. I'll just reset this. That's what it looked like directly out of camera, okay? Now, let's go over to the Canon file, and I'll show you what this thing looked like directly out of camera. Now, I did crop it a little bit because, anyway. So look at the Canon file, and then look at the, so here's the Fuji file right out of camera. Here's the Canon file right out of camera. How crazy is that, guys? This one is a little bit over. This one's probably a little bit under, but that could have just been me. But look at the color and look at the detail. Now, let me go back to my edits here, okay? So I'm gonna undo this. I'm just gonna keep going back until it brings me back. I'll just undo that. Okay, there we go again. So here we go, Canon and the Fuji. Now let's just look at the Canon detail, all right? We're gonna go into the eyes. It's nice and sharp, okay? There's plenty of detail. In fact, there's a little fall off on this eye. Forgive me for that. But just, you know, if you look at the color and you look at the detail, everything looks good, but there's just not much there. And then we go to the Fuji, and the difference is remarkable, okay? You see what I'm talking about here, guys? That's 1:1, that's 1:1, and the difference is really, truly remarkable. Here's just a natural light portrait I did of Kim. This was the same day that he was there with his daughter. Hey, oh my God. Freaking out on my Lightroom over here. Give me 1 sec, guys. Okay, here we go. Natural light portrait, and this was, let's see. Lightroom's moving awfully slow. 1/100th f2.8 ISO 100. How beautiful is that? And interestingly, he was just standing in the doorway of my studio, but you know, just the background went to black, which is really, really lovely. So you didn't really see in there, but man, the level of detail. Okay, got some bloodshot eyes, but still, look at those irises. It's just phenomenally good. Skin tones are really terrific. All right, so we'll just leave it at that. Boom, we'll just bring her back up there. So there you go, guys. So a couple of different things. Number one of the first things that I tested with the camera was to make sure that it tethered. And there's a plugin for Lightroom. Boom, I downloaded it, you know, hooked up the camera, all the camera settings were there, you know, just hit the little shutter button on Lightroom and boom. I would greatly prefer if this was Capture One friendly, because Capture One is my go-to for tethering, it's my go-to for professional client work. However, you can't have everything. I mean, to get a medium format, to own a medium format camera that captured in Capture One, you know, you're talking about something that's at least 4 times the price, and that just prohibits me from getting into something like that. The other thing that I found, and this is a really great tip for any of you guys who are studio shooters or using strobes, is something that freaked me out at first and almost made me want to just stop using the camera. Was I was shooting with some strobes, and I think I was at f8 when I was doing the shots with Kim. And I'm looking through the EVF, and the EVF is black because I'm literally killing all the ambient light. And the EVF is essentially giving me a preview of my exposure. And I'm like, geez, you know, how the heck am I going to be able to shoot with flash if I'm not able to see my image? Well, anyway, there is a hidden setting in here. It's not so hidden, but it's in the tools that allows you to turn the EVF off or turn the EVF preview off. And thus it allows you to just look through the viewfinder passively. It still works as an electronic viewfinder, it just doesn't give you a preview of your exposure. So that was really wonderful news. So there you go. I've been enjoying using the camera. I think it's a really wonderful thing. I think that the resolution is terrific. I think that the IQ is fantastic. I think that if you're not a Fuji user, this could be challenging at first because there is a learning curve coming from Canon or Nikon. But if you are someone who's looking to get into medium format, this is a terrific option. I did try the Hasselblad X1D and I thought it was good, but I think that this thing wins in so many different ways. And it does have a little jog dial for focus, which is one of my huge gripes with the Hasselblad. But overall, I think that Fuji is just a more innovative company. I'm not endorsed by them, I'm just telling you my feelings. I think there's a lot more development for Fuji. I think there's a much greater lens lineup. I think that Fuji is much more proactive with firmware updates. So I think it's a really terrific platform, and I think it's going to continue to grow. So there it is, guys. That's my not so quick review of the Fuji GFX 50S medium format camera. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below, and we'll see you soon.